in the comments below, and we'll do our best to get it sorted out. Thank you for your participation. We've had a load of questions come in, which I'm happy to answer this morning. And if you think of anything while we're on air, please send us your comments through, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Before we get started this morning, there's a couple of products that I've seen. I've come into the Flash Centre branch. I don't come in very often, so when I do, I like to look at all of the nice new toys and things that are around. So there's a couple of things that have taken my interest this morning, which I'd love to show you, just to give you an idea of what new technology is out on the market. The first is a product by Phottix. It's an LED panel, and it's great. We have had massive success with these over the months. This isn't a massively new product to us because we've been selling it for a while, but the second product I'll show you, which is quite a new innovative, that's easy for me to say, piece of kit. But let me show you the Phottix. It's an LED panel. And we've sold a lot of these to wedding photographers and portrait photographers alike. I've actually used one of these on a shoot as a bit of fill. It's a lovely made little unit. It retails for about £95, and it's the Phottix M180. It's got a tripod bush in the bottom, so you can mount it on a boomstick, and you can also put a little tabletop tripod like this. It's massively bright. You've got full control. From a very low power up to a very bright power. I'm not going to turn it on now because obviously it might interfere with this, but it's also bi-colour. We can take it from daylight all the way down to tungsten and anywhere in between, so you can match the ambient lighting around you at the time. The other lovely feature about this is that it's got some ports on the bottom. It's actually a power bank, 4,040 milliamp hours if I remember rightly, and you can charge your iPhone or your Samsung or your Android phone directly from this, so it's actually a dual purpose. If you haven't looked at it yet, there's a few videos online. Check them out on the Flash Centre YouTube channel. There's one made by Phottix, and it's great. It gives you a really good idea of how it works, and maybe, who knows, you can use it in your photography. The second product I'd like to show you just quickly is a new product, collaboration between our friends over in America called Light and Motion. It's the Elinchrom EL-M8. I've got some specs here, you have to bear with me, I've only just seen it, so I'm looking at the specs here and sharing them with you because I think it's quite an exciting product, especially if you are an existing ELB 400 or Quadra customer, even an ELB 500. The front of the unit is actually got a Quadra mount on it, so we can put direct fit Quadra accessories onto the front, but it also means, those of you that have it already, we can use the Elinchrom adapter to convert the front of it to use any of the Elinchrom accessories to go on the front, so we can shape and manipulate the light and use it. So to start with, this is a continuous LED light. It's a CRI of 93 and a TLCI of 94. It's 8,000 lumens and a lux level of 16,320 at 1 meter with a Fresnel attachment on the front of it. So it's actually a really nice unit. It's beautifully made. It weighs quite a bit. It's 1.2 kilos. But the battery life inside it is great. Reading through the specs this morning, 2 hours full charge, full radio control with the Elinchrom Skyport transmitter, but also with the HS Pro trigger as well. Gives you 20 frequencies, gives you 4 groups, and a distance range of control to up to 100 meters. So it's great in most areas. You can control the power. The only thing I will point out is on the HS trigger at the moment, there's no display, so it doesn't appear in the digital display on the trigger. The runtime I was quite impressed with, 50 minutes to 245 minutes, obviously a minimum power and a maximum power. So it's very versatile, very easy to control. On the top we have an on switch, on here everything feels very over-engineered. It's a really nice product. It feels great quality. We have an LED display on the back, and we have a mode button so that we can change frequencies and groups within our setup and use it. The front is fully modifiable, so the standard native beam angle is actually 120 degrees, but we have a parabolic attachment that goes onto the front of it. I also have some accessories, like a set of barn doors. They do a gel holder as well, which just fits onto the front, so we can put some coloured gels on to change the colour temperature. This is actually just a daylight only unit, it's not a bi-colour. The other lovely thing that I'm quite excited to start shooting with is actually the Fresnel spot to go onto the front of it. There's a lot of different accessories, like a dome as well, to meet your lighting needs. The thing that I am very excited about is that we can add this into our current setup. So if we want to fill with some daylight rather than use a flash, we can. The other lovely thing about it is that the adapter will go onto the front of a standard ELB400 Quadra or ELB500 head, which allows us to put the Fresnel spot straight onto the front of this unit. I'm quite excited about using this. I think that's going to add some variety to certainly what I shoot. It's worth checking it out on the Flash Centre website. Lots and lots of details and current specifications on there. And hopefully this will be one in a few different items that we maybe partner with or whatever with Light in Motion, and see where it goes. I mean, technology is changing all the time. It's a really exciting time for LED. It's all coming through, and the technology is just getting better and better and better. The fact that we can put a 2-meter softbox or an indirect softbox onto the front of this, who knows? I'm quite interested to shoot with it. So let's see what happens in the future. Anyway, back to the questions and answers. As I said, thank you very much. We've had a lot of participation. If you've got any questions, as I said, while we're on air, please just put them in the comments below, and we'll go through and I'll answer as many as I possibly can. So the questions we've had so far, common question that I get asked, what is the difference between an action head and an high sync or an HS head? Let me just fill you in a little bit on the Elinchrom system for those of you that don't know. Historically, Elinchrom have used a system called full flash curve, rather than an IGBT circuit that a flash gun works on, and some of the other manufacturers on the market currently use. IGBT works in a slightly different way to full flash curve, where the speed light or the IGBT circuit actually pulses light to make up a complete exposure. The flash curve of the Elinchrom systems means that when we're doing high sync, ours is quite different to most other people's. So what we have to do is we have to set delays within triggers to enable us to hit the peak of the flash curve so we don't lose any power. It actually makes quite a few of the Elinchrom products more powerful than the competitors on the market, because we can move the window in where the flash fires to hit the actual peak of the flash power. So the difference really between an action head and an HS head is, on the Elinchrom system, the action head has around about a 6,000th of a second flash duration. This means that within my studio or location environment, I can actually freeze the action. So the action means it's a fast flash duration head, 6,000th of a second. We do the Pro head, which is a 4,000th of a second, there or thereabouts, and is ideal and very popular with wedding photographers or location photographers. Using the correct equipment, we can get half to a full stop more power out of that head as well because of the duration of the flash. The high sync head actually works in completely opposite to how you would imagine it to. It's got a very, very long flash duration. So here comes the science bit. 500th of a second flash duration is actually very slow. In essence, the HS head becomes a continuous light source throughout your frame. So, for example, if you're using an 8,000th of a second shutter speed and a 500th of a second flash duration, you can now see that while the shutter is open, the flash is firing, it's continuing to fire before it drops off well after the shutter is closed. This gives us a lovely even light throughout the image, and also allows most camera manufacturers to sync to 8,000th of a second. I hope that's answered the questions. If I've gone too far, please put a comment in the boxes below, and I'll revisit that one in a little while. It's actually quite technical, but quite straightforward. I can normally draw pictures and explains it even better. Maybe next time. If I haven't done it right, please let us know. The other question I often get asked, it's a double-barrel question really. I'm setting up my first studio on a budget. What background colours do you recommend I use? To follow that through a little bit further, we also get asked quite a lot, what lights do I need? So let me try and answer this one for you. In terms of setting up a new studio, I recommend you have 3 backgrounds, if budget allows. You can have a black, a white and a grey, mainly because you can make the grey any colour you like using gels. We can make the black obviously a solid black, and we can have the white, we can have it white, we can gel it, we can make it grey by not lighting the background. So the 3 colours, black, white and grey, will give you an all-round system that you can use for most things. The second part of the question is, what power lights do I need? Well, back in the days where we all shot film, I sold everybody to go and buy as much power as they could possibly afford. The sensors in the cameras these days are so good that it's really, with the Elinchrom system, how many shots a day do you actually take? What we don't want to do is sell you a light that's not going to keep up with the pace. So take, for example, our little D-Light 1 system, very, very popular with newborn photographers. The more important thing these days not only is how many shots a day do you do, how hard are these units going to work for you, but also how big's my studio space? How low can I get the light down? If you're running 500 watt heads in the back of the garage, you'll understand it's quite difficult to get down to low or wide aperture shooting to create very shallow depth of field, because if you can't turn the lights down low enough and move those lights back far enough because the garage wall's in there, you're stuck. The only way you've got to do is use neutral density gels on the flash heads or on your camera. It's not convenient. So my advice is, if you've got a very small studio space, make sure the head's going to do the job you want it to do. If you can control the ambient in your studio, there's no problem in moving the ISO switch from 100 up to 200 to 400, doubling or quadrupling the power of those lights in effect. If you can get the light source in very, very close and turn the power right down, we can shoot at very wide apertures, but also create some skin smoothing because the light source is so big, so much bigger in reference to the subject. I love shooting in very, very close, shooting hair and beauty type stuff, because it saves me a lot of time in post-production afterwards, just because the skin smoothing has virtually been done within camera. Choosing the correct modifier to go with those lights obviously is a key point as well. So I hope that's answered that one, and thanks for the question that was sent in. Another option, another question I get asked quite a lot is, if I had to pick which one modifier to use, what would it be? It depends on where I'm shooting and what I'm shooting, but in a studio environment, my favourite modifier that Elinchrom produce, there's 2 to be fair. There's the 30 by 150 strip, 50 by 130 strip, which is my favourite for sort of fashiony type images. The 135 octa I find is a good all-rounder. It's beautifully soft. You can get it in very, very close using the right head to shoot at nice wide apertures, and the skin smoothing and the wraparound on that softbox is absolutely brilliant. The quality of the materials within the Rotolux range are matched to the heads, and the whole quality of the light is just superb. We've also got a massive amount of control with the 135 in terms of feathering, so we can actually feather the light off across the subject to create some shadows, some contrast, and it's a really, really good all-rounder for either single portraits, adding a bit more of a dramatic look, but it also allows you to shoot big groups of people in the studio as well. The light spread on it is absolutely fantastic. So 135 and the 50 by 130 strip box are 2 of my go-to accessories. If I'm outside, I quite like shooting our deep parabolic umbrellas as well. We do a diffusion cover for the back, so it makes it into an indirect softbox in effect, and because of the flat sides of that umbrella, it acts very much like a softbox. The internal material on the silver umbrella is very, very high performance and utilizes the light very, very well. It can be feathered across the subject to create some shape and some depth to the image. And again, the spread of light is fantastic, using far back as a harder light source, but also enables us to fill a group with light. But used in very close, it's massively effective. And again, one of my very go-to accessories. I'm a fairly lazy photographer. If I don't have to set up two softboxes, I won't. I'll use the umbrellas. And if I get the effect that I'm looking for, brilliant. It doesn't matter what accessory you're using. So again, thank you for that question. The next question is, what inspires your style of photography? Well, this is a difficult one. I quite like dark, moody, dramatic type shots. So my photography tends to err around sort of dark and moody portraits. I've done a series of images recently of some fitness photography. And again, making it kind of dark, moody and dramatic is key, and trying to make a very clean white gym setting into a sort of a proper moody image with some sort of ambience to it, maybe using some gels. I love creating that look. And when the people I've shot see the images, they're like, crikey, the gym was bright white and you've made it look very, very dark and dingy. So my style of photography is inspired by sort of dark, moody style images, just to kind of kick off the ambience if you haven't got an old spit and sawdust type boxing gym to shoot in. What camera system do I use and why? Well, for many, many years I shot Canon DSLR. I've been through the 5D range, I've been through the 1DX range, and for general everyday stuff, especially motorsport photography that I shoot, the Canon is absolutely perfect. I've been spoiled because I've actually bought into the Pentax 645Z system for a lot of my fashion-y or hair and beauty style shots. The detail in that camera is absolutely brutal, obviously comparable to the Fuji GFX. It's a lovely, lovely system. The only thing is you're going to need to go out and buy some fairly large storage, because the amount of information in those files is quite scary. And I've gone from doing a shoot that maybe was 2 gig to the same shoot on the Z, 8, 9, 10 gigabytes of information. It makes you slow down, it makes you think about what you're shooting rather than machine gun and everything, which, you know, coming from the film days, I'm quite disciplined against anyway. But the actual thought process goes into it, and I apply the old film days to it and take 1 or 2 or maybe 3 shots to get the one I want, rather than 6, 7, 8 that we all now do on the DSLR. So the 645 with a 150mm lens on is my go-to piece of kit for when I'm shooting my own style of photography, so especially the hair and makeup, beauty style stuff. Absolutely love it. Okay, so again, there's a question that we get asked quite a lot. We get a lot of product photography questions. So we've had these are anonymous questions. I sell electronic devices and want to improve the product images on my website. Can you advise suitable lighting and equipment that I can use? This is quite a straightforward question. The lighting on a product set is normally fairly close in. The secret to it is to get a very, very even style light across the subject. So most people photograph them, they cut them out, stick them on another background and put them up on their websites. It's easy to do with the minimum amount of kit. I would always go for something that you can get in close, and again, turn the power down so you've got full control over what you're doing. If the product's small, you don't necessarily need a massive depth of field. If the product's bigger, then obviously it's a different thing. We need a bit more power to create some more depth of field, and using the right modifiers. The D-Lite 1 kit, the 2-head kit that's on our website, is a fantastic bit of kit. It's 475 quid for a 2-head set. It's a complete unit. The little soft boxes that come with it are actually quite good for product photography. So if you're looking to do your own, it's not a problem looking at something that's 100 watts. Very often now we don't need much more than that. And even with sort of high key stuff in the studio, 100 watts, to be fair, you can use quite well. So the product photography side, don't complicate it. Keep it simple, even lighting, enable you to cut it out a lot easier and stick it on the background of your choice. Again, I hope that works. We've got another question that's just come in. I've been signaled to, so let's see what this one is.
Alicat David has a question. I have a photo shoot of a new mobility shop that's just expanded into 2 shops. Any suggestions with the lighting?
Okay, so we've got a guy, sorry, what was his name?
Alicat David.
Alicat David has messaged in. He's got a shoot to do in a mobility shop. They've just expanded and he needs to do, I'm gathering, sort of interior shots of the situation and he needs to do a shot inside. Again, bear in mind how much space you've got. Go and have a look at the venue first. Make sure that you're clued up so you can take the right gear with you. Generally, they'll give you a space to shoot. I mean, if it's interior shots, obviously you need tactically placed lights to be able to light things in different areas. But keep the light to a minimum, because the lower the power of the flash, the less you've got issues of bouncing light around. It's controlling the light to keep it in the places that you're pointing it at. I wouldn't discount something like the ELB500, which will allow you a massive power range to play with. This type of thing is complementing the light that's already in there. So a little bit of fill light in the back corner or something to bring up the ambience of it so people can see everything about it. Again, if you're shooting certain items within that shop, make sure that you've got a nice space to be able to light things properly. So we'd be very, very happy if you need some advice when we've got more information. If you come in or give us a shout, we can talk you through and advise you on exactly what products to use. But again, keep it simple. It's a bit of fill just to highlight areas of the shop. If it's product photography, my previous question about the D-Light 1 set, it's a product that we do that I think will do you well. But let's have some more information. Give us a shout. Pop in if you're local, and we'll help you out with some advice. I hope that helps. Thank you. Okay, so the other very popular question we get asked a lot is, how do I evenly light a white background? A lot of people try and complicate a white background. The easiest way to do it, I tend to use 2 16cm wide-angle Brolly reflectors, 45 degrees either side to the background. Using the same modifier on each head will actually give you the evenness that you need. Just very slightly cross the beams in the middle so that you know you've got a full spread. This will allow you to have a pure white background. I always meter my white background at 1 stop brighter than my working aperture. That's enough to give me a pure white background, but it also means that I don't get any flare back off the background if I can't separate my subject far enough away to create sort of a ready bright glow behind the subject, which looks very, very unnatural. So 45 degrees to the background, behind the subject, pointing to the white background. Make sure your light looks nice and even. 1 stop over your working aperture, and that will give you your pure white background. So again, I hope that helps you all. What photography editing software do you use and why? I'm still a big fan of Adobe. I use Lightroom and Photoshop. I tend to do very little in terms of editing. Because coming from the film days, I still try and get as much right in camera as possible. I don't want to be sat in front of my computer for hours on end doing editing. And a standard rule of thumb that I've got is that I'll only really do in Photoshop what I used to be able to do in the darkroom, hand printing pictures, a bit of dodging and burning, and a bit of skin smoothing. I don't like going over the top with skin smoothing. No model I have ever shot, and I've shot a lot in my time, looks like a China doll. Therefore, I'd rather have it looking as natural as possible. If there's blemishes and things on the skin, obviously I will retouch those out, but very, very subtle on the editing side. But I find that Lightroom and Photoshop do me for what I need. If it's a big job, obviously I shoot alongside my proper job, then I do outsource some of my editing as well. If it's jobs I've shot for the Flash Centre, where we need images quickly, because not necessarily I can get to them in time to produce those images quick enough as we need. So Adobe's great. I know a lot of people favour things like Capture One. Again, a great system, but my personal preference is the Adobe products. So that's that one. What would you say is the best lens for wedding photography? Well, this is a difficult one because it depends on what style of wedding photography you shoot. When I was shooting weddings quite a while ago, I used to have a range of lenses that I used. If I'm talking about my DSLR days, a lot of my stuff was done on a standard 50mm lens, but then the close-up portraits of the bride and groom, I always favoured the 70-200. The compression on that lens is absolutely fantastic and keeps everything straight. Sometimes for a group you'll need a slightly wide-angle lens, so this is a pretty open-ended question. It really depends on what your style of photography is and how you know, the reportage style of photography tends to be a bit of everything, wide angle, a bit of close up, and it's just capturing the mood and the ambience. So it depends on your style of photography, really. Another question, a live question.
Scott Robinson asks, hi, I sometimes shoot woodland full body portraits and I always seem to get a green glow onto the model when using flash and a reflective umbrella. Any tips? Thank you.
Okay, so Scott Robinson shoots woodland style portraits and basically his problem is that he's getting a green glow when using a reflective brolly in that situation. This could be a number of different things, Scott. I've experienced it before where there's been very heavy green foliage and the light isn't controlled enough. Because an umbrella tends to be a fairly uneconomical modifier because the light spreads everywhere. What you're doing is by the sounds of it, without knowing any more information, is you're getting bounce off the greenery and the leaves within that ambience, which is basically contaminating the light that's hitting the subject. It might be worth having a look at using a different modifier, maybe a softbox where you have more control. The spill of light is a bit narrower so that you're not bouncing off that greenery around. So it could be something like that. I would also be prepared or say to you, maybe use a grid on the front of your softbox as well to really control where that light goes. Sounds to me as if it's a bounce off the surroundings. But again, give us a shout, show us some images, and you know, we'll help you further. No problem at all. I hope that answers that one. The other question we get asked quite a lot: do I need a light meter? I always say yes. I know that we can look at the back of our cameras these days and we can see roughly what the exposure is. I tend to use the back of the camera for expressions only. The reason for that is because a lot of people get hung up on the back of their camera. All the courses we run here, all the courses I run on location, it's funny, I can stand back and everyone does the same thing. We shoot, we chimp, we shoot, we chimp, every single time. I also get asked, why is my colours different to yours? Well, the back of the camera is a very basic tool. It's a very low res JPEG image it's showing you. It depends on how warm or cool your screen is set to. Both of my Canons, one of them's warm, one of them's blue. I literally look at the back of my camera for expressions and rough exposure. A light meter will give you a definitive number to put into your camera so that you know your starting point is exactly right. In front of anybody that's a paying client, it looks more professional because you've got the right gear. You take a light meter reading, you put it into your camera, your base point is set. If you then want to adjust the exposure down or up, it's entirely up to you. It's your style of photography. But a light meter just saves those 3 or 4 chimping efforts to make sure that your exposure is spot on. again, don't trust the back of the camera. Most courses we run here, if it's a very, very low level, entry level course, actually I quite often tape up the back of people's cameras so they can't chip. We've got a light meter reading, we know the exposure is going to be absolutely bang on, and you can see visibly the sweat appearing when people can't actually see what they've shot straight away. Take that back to film days where we used to shoot a wedding and I'd send my pictures off on a Monday morning. They might not come back till Friday, so I had a week to wait to see what I had. We didn't have the luxury of looking on the back of the camera. So a light meter is something I've always used, and I definitely promote the use of it. There are lots of different options out there. There's apps, I believe, on both iOS and Android that work to an extent. There's plug-in light meters and color temperature meters that go into the bottom of your phone these days, driven by an app. But you know, a standard 100, 200 pound light meter will do most things. They will all do ambient, they will all do flash. So have a look. I personally standardise on the Sekonic light meters. I've used them for years, and they're just very reliable. All you're doing is setting a value. You're setting your shutter speed, you're setting your ISO. The aperture is what it's giving you. So don't be frightened of a light meter. A lot of people that don't use them think they're very complicated, but actually they're very, very straightforward and will save you time. So yeah, I recommend a light meter. The other question we've had come in last night, I noticed TFC do courses. What type of courses do you run and what topics are covered? We do a variety of courses. I run a training company on the side called The Light Doctor. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. And my courses are run in conjunction with demand at the time. We've had a lot of interest this year in introduction to studio lighting courses. I have run some courses as Flash Centre Days. We did one at Chateau Impney the other day, which was a location lighting course, along with Gary Hill and Wayne Johns. Fuji came along and had some cameras to play with. So if it's location stuff that you're after, we run those courses quite often. I run one-on-ones, we run groups, and we run intermediate and advanced courses as well, depending on the demand. If you've got any ideas for courses, or you have a group of you in a local camera club that want to put something on, shout us. Let's put something together for you. We can come along, we can bring all of the gear for you to play with, we can bring cameras along. If there's a new model that you want to have a look at, we can bring models, we can bring makeup artists, hairstylists, whatever you want to do. We could do a themed location. We basically run courses to fit in for the demand at the time. So I hope that's covered it. Keep an eye on the Flash Centre events page on flashcentre.com, and all of the courses will be advertised. And if you get in early, you're guaranteed a place. And we've got some great feedback from the courses we've run recently. So all good. Is there any more questions I need to answer from a live point of view? How long have we got to go? I think we've got a couple of minutes left, so we'll just go. If there's any questions now, if you're quick, you can get them in. So we've covered quite a lot this morning. I hope you found it interesting, and please bear with us. This is our first time. Thank you for helping me take my YouTube live virginity this morning. I've enjoyed it. It's been a good exercise to do. For future sessions of Q&As, you know, we'll give you some notice next time. We'll be very prepared. We'll put a question out to see whether there's some sort of more in-depth questions that we can answer for you. Also, if there's some products that you'd like to see me do a run-through of, we can do that. We can do maybe some product reviews, you know, with the Elinchrom system, or even some camera systems that we stock. So let us know what you need. If there's some live demos that you'd like to see, we can also do those as well. So again, it's all demand driven. Give us a shout, and let's get this channel building, and hopefully it'll be a bit more of an educational place as well, and we can start pushing this through. But I thank you very much for your time this morning. Thanks for participating and helping us out, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.
One question.
Oh, one question.
From For most people starting out in flash photography, what equipment do you recommend, i.e. a softbox or umbrella?
Okay, so we've had a question from
Scott Robinson.
Scott Robinson again. Hi, Scott. He's wanting to know, people starting out in flash photography, what modifiers would I recommend? Again, it all depends on what I'm shooting. I love using umbrellas, but I don't tend to use the shallow umbrellas. I use the much deeper ones because it's all about, for me, control of light. Where do I want my light put in my image? It's very, very easy to illuminate a picture, but to illuminate a subject within that image is actually the key, and that's the art to it. Photography obviously means, in the Latin meaning, is painting with light. So I like to paint the light onto my subject within that frame to create that ambience. An umbrella is a great all-rounder, but as I said before, it's fairly uneconomical with the power. You do tend to lose quite a bit because of the widespread. You lose the control of that modifier, really. So as a starting point, if you're looking to start into flash photography and looking all about the control of light rather than overall lighting an image, I'd always use a softbox. I'd use a softbox with a grid attached, really to give me that control of where that light goes within the frame. We also do a whole range of Photic softboxes with various different mounts on the back of them. For Elinchrom, for Bowens, it's got speed light adapters and everything else. The softboxes come in lots of different shapes and sizes. They're double diffused, they're ripstop nylon, so they're very, very nicely made. They have an egg crate with them as well, with a carry bag, and generally they're all between sort of 90 and 120 quid. So from a price point of view, it's quite a good value modifier, and the light quality is actually very, very nice. Very quick up umbrella mechanisms inside. It's worth having a look at the Phottix range, Scott, on the flashcenter.com and have a look. We do rentals. You can come and rent the equipment, try before you buy, just in case you want to try something before you invest your hard-earned money, which I'd promote you did. And we do deals on those where if you rent something, you come back, you get your rental back anyway. So it's actually cost you nothing to try it. So I hope that's helped, Scott, but please give us a shout in store, pop in and see us, and we'll be happy to sit down and go through it with you in a little bit more detail, understanding more about what you shoot. I hope that helps. Okay, guys, I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you.